with the mayor. We're all live
Wow.
with the mayor, and today and tonight we have a very special guest. I think probably the big star of the last election. She emerged as a national figure, not just as a major candidate in Arizona. We probably get excluded right now on some social network. When they exclude you, they go like, they put somebody up and he says, "You are now off the station and you will be put on a train and we are going to take you to the censorship land." So now I'm going to say something and one of those guys is going to come out. I mean, she won the election.
That's true.
So, okay. But, this is a good time for her to regroup and help the president, which she's doing tremendously, help the party, which she's doing tremendously. And if she doesn't run again, you'll see a very old man who's supposed to be really tough cry. I'll cry if you don't run again.
But
You
wait,
better
you're
run
not
again.
Old? Oh my gosh. We're gonna do what we can to help our country. I'm gonna be honest.
You're a patriot. You're a patriot. I remember.
Mayor?
I remember before when you were,
Running.
No, when you were on TV and all.
Yeah.
And then first I would start getting reports about Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you were fabulous on TV.
Thank you.
I mean, you gave up being a major star to run, and sure, our people love you, but like me, the other side now despises you. Like you're the devil.
Isn't that sad? I was
You're the
friends
devil.
with.
You're the nicest person. You're the devil.
Much like Trump, I was friends with a lot of those people.
Yeah, shocked.
I mean, I was just looking at Trump's new book, Letters to Trump.
Yeah, show it to them.
I will.
Number 1.
Woo! And
It's huge. Number 1. It's huge.
It's huge.
The book is huge.
And there's a
He was
lot of
last
people
night. He pointed that
who
out.
were
It's
friends.
huge.
They're friends with him before things were political. They loved him, and I felt the same way.
I was friends with 30 years.
I loved everybody that I was around. I found good qualities in every human being. And then I quit my job because I can no longer lend my heart, my soul, my voice, my mind to the fake news. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want the 7-figure contract. I don't want the money. Just let me be free. I don't want it.
How unusual is that, though?
It's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
Although hopefully it becomes more.
The second feeling. A lot of people feel the first, I can't stand it again. But then, they get stuck with
Right.
A lot of what we're seeing now, a lot of these, I mean, I know some of these people, and
they want their house in the Hamptons. They want their house in the city. They want their vacation home.
Yeah, how about the people that work with me on the election floor?
Yeah.
Completely enthusiastic and knew the election was stolen. And then they testified to Fox that they didn't believe the election.
I hate
was
that.
stolen.
I hate that so much
But
because
they, it's millions of dollars to them. And the one guy who got fired didn't do that.
well, we all know. I mean, let's look at the facts. Can we talk about anything or are we going to get canceled?
Who cares?
Good.
We
I
got
love this
enough
guy.
other ones.
Woo.
We
Okay.
got enough other ones, and our main one is Twitter. So
I used to say
that one is now
81 million votes for Joe Biden. Don't insult my intelligence, okay? Don't insult it. A basement guy. He never came out and campaigned. He won, I think, like 16% of the counties. That's impossible, guys. Listen, if he won, I'd be the first to say, wow, okay, dang, I misread it. Don't insult our intelligence. And if you believe that this guy who hid in his basement, who can't even walk down to the bathroom and make it in time, won, I worry about your intelligence. And I worry about that the fact that the fake news media has sent these like worms into your brain. And that's what's happening. They're using you, they're using your children, and they're brainwashing you into a bunch of lies. Joe Biden didn't win. I'm not saying that because I love President Trump. I do. I think President Trump is one of the greatest fighters of our time. I'm saying this because I love America. And Joe Biden lost. We all know it. Even the left knows it. The guy is incompetent and he's owned by our enemies. And I think it's really obvious right now as he marches us toward World War III, as he destroys our economy. And just wait, you might be okay with all of that. Wait until your retirement fund dries up. Wait until the US dollar is worthless. And then maybe you're going to say, okay, we were wrong.
Yeah, I hope it's not too late, and it won't be too late if we win in 24, which
That's
is
why we
why
have to fight.
24 is, and it's unfortunate that every election we kind of cry wolf. Not we, you and I, but everybody did. Right? This is the most important election. Most important.
Well, I
Well,
felt the
this
last
is
one was.
yeah, it was actually. Just think of one fact: the people in Ukraine, whatever you think of the war, all be alive now if that election hadn't been stolen.
Yeah,
If
you're right.
Trump were in the White House, is there anybody that doubts that Putin would invade? Of course he wouldn't. I think Putin would almost tell you that he wouldn't have invaded. He got Biden. He saw Biden do what he did in Afghanistan, cut and run,
Mhm.
and then he tested him for 3 months and got him to say, "Oh, I won't put any troops in. I won't put any troops in. Oh my God, I won't put any."
Yeah.
And so he realized it was a no problem situation.
That Biden's weak.
That Biden is weak. He could go in. He was assured there'd be no intervention. He probably figured out from what Obama did that they'll verbally support Ukraine.
Hmm.
They'll talk about lots of arms, but they'll give the arms like 5 weeks late.
Yeah.
And they'll give them cash. And who knows what's happening to that cash?
Well, we
I mean,
know.
the country is the most crooked country in the world.
Can I just say we know what's happening? I mean, we already know that, and hopefully you know that at home, and I'm hoping your listeners know this, that Zelensky embezzled $400 million. We've sent $170 billion to fight a war to protect the borders of Ukraine when we're not sending any money to our own southern border, where we have the drug cartels, the CCP, in control, where we have the fentanyl pouring in. Arizona's become a pipeline for fentanyl.
Yeah, I mean,
And you worked in New York. I mean, this man saved New York City. Saved it. I'll tell you what, honest to goodness, we need you to run for mayor of New York again. Are you up for it?
yeah,
You wanna lead
probably.
this paradise.
I'm probably up for it.
New
I-
York
I-
used to be when
well-
I used to hang out there when I was in my 20s with my
Well,
husband.
sure,
It was safe. I never once feared.
There's a great. I mean, like I love my country. I'm a New Yorker all my life. I love my city. It's the reason I did it. And then, of course, God willing, I had great people. We had more success than I ever thought we would have. And then when Bloomberg took over, although we have different political philosophies, we have the same view on law and order. And he hired a superior police commissioner, Ray Kelly. And so we had 20 golden years. We had 18 of those years. We were the safest large city in America. Can you imagine New York City that had been the crime capital when I came in, within 3 years turns into the safest large city in America and remains that way for 18 years. We didn't have a riot for 22 years. The last riot we had a Democratic mayor. The next riot we had 22 years later, we had a Democratic mayor. So you don't want to riot, don't have a Democratic
Can you
mayor.
take us back to the so-called Summer of Love, where I was horrified as I'm a news anchor at the time, watching what's happening in New York. Stores are being looted, cop cars are being set on fire. Were you watching that?
Watching
obviously.
it.
What were you thinking? What would you have done?
First of all, what I would have done never would have happened. First guy would have been arrested. So I inherited a city that was rioting regularly and had two major riots: a pogrom in which they went out into the streets and for five days found Jewish people to beat up and kill. And that pogrom was really run by Al Sharpton, and Dinkins let him run it.
Wow.
And then we had one in Washington Heights for 4 days where there was a totally false narrative about the killing of a drug dealer who was made into an altar. The first picture the next day in the news and the Post is he was an altar boy. He was an altar boy, had been arrested. His altar boy had beaten the hell out of his mother, almost killed his sister, and was the number 3 guy in a crack gang. And it took 4 days for the police department to get out the tape that he was trying to kill the cop with a knife.
Yeah.
And we had a riot there. So when I became mayor, I gave a speech about riots. I said there aren't going to be any riots in my city.
Good.
Because we have a different approach, and I just want to warn you. In the old days, we used to have a cooling off period. So Dinkins and the left wingers felt if you got a big riot, a bunch of people like Antifa or Black Lives Matter, and they throw a rock, let them throw it.
Go.
If I arrest them for the rock, I'll create the riot. Oh, they spit in a cop's face. Oh, forget that. Oh, they broke a window. Oh, forget that. Now, you see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So they keep watching this. And by the time it gets to the point where they're going to intervene, they got a big lead, right?
Yeah.
My rule: you can protest all you want. You break a law, you get arrested,
I love
and
it.
you go to jail. And I'm not even going to take you in for bail. I'm going to put you right on Rikers Island. Because I don't
Good.
have time to take you for bail. I got a rise to deal with.
Yeah.
So you'll be sleeping in Rikers Island.
Good. Amen.
And you want to test me? Have a riot. All I had to do was say that. I never had a riot.
Isn't that amazing?
I never was
You
tested.
show strength and you show that. And when I was running for governor of Arizona, I mentioned you all the time. You probably don't know this, but our homeless policy, we were one of the only governors who had a homeless policy. You would think that the people in California, Washington State running for office would have a homeless policy. They didn't. But I had a homeless policy to stop this chronic street homelessness because I didn't want Arizona to become California, to become San Francisco, to become Washington. And I said, we're going to take what Rudy Giuliani, the greatest mayor our country has ever seen, has done. Yes, it's one of the chairs. We have a studio audience. And it's called the broken windows policy.
Yeah,
Is that what you
exactly.
called it?
I mean, it's not. I got it from. I always tell the liberal intellectual jackasses that you should adopt.
I like how you pulled intellectual and then jackasses in the same sentence. A little bit of a compliment and then the truth.
I used to tell them you should accept the broken windows theory. They say what? I said it was written by a professor from Harvard.
Harvard.
In 1979, Professor James Q. Wilson. Doesn't come from me, so don't reject it. It's
Well, I
not
would
from
explain it.
stupid, dumb me. It comes from a professor from Harvard.
You know what? I'm going to explain it from a mother's point of view. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. I came up from a family of 9. And when you do something stupid and you screw up at home as a child and your parents let you get away with it, guess what? You screw up again. You pull the same stuff again. When you do something wrong and your mom slaps your hands or smacks you a little bit, you go, whoa, I can't get away with that anymore. That's what the broken window policy is. And we have to get back to that.
Carrie,
We are allowing this outrageous
that's
lawlessness.
child abuse.
Well, I've
That's
been a victim.
child abuse.
I'm a victim and I turned out okay.
If my mother only hit my hand like that, I'd have been really happy. I mean, she'd whack the hell out of me.
But you wouldn't have turned out as good.
And my
right?
father was a boxer. So all my father had to do was look at me and start to put his fist like this, and I would go, ah.
But honestly, my parents were not. They didn't do a lot of spanking.
They
I
didn't
got
mind it either,
spanked
but
twice in my
I was
life.
threatened with it, and that was enough.
That was enough. The fear of what your parents would do. If I got in trouble at school, I was more afraid of going home. What's going to happen to me at home? Not what the teacher's going to do. What are my parents going to do? Even though my parents never exhibited violence in the home.
No, my father occasionally. My mother used to want my father to spank me, and because my father was a boxer, he had this very strict rule that you don't use your fists because he was taught that if you use your fists, they're deadly weapons if you're a boxer, and particularly back in that was the Depression era. That was a big thing. He also was a man who you also taught never fight with somebody smaller than you, never be a bully, and God forbid you touch a woman. My father would tell me like draconian things like, if I touched a woman, it would be a sure indication I wasn't a man.
Well,
There'd be
so think of
nothing that would separate the two of us. I could do anything. He was there with me. If I hit a woman, he doesn't want to know me anymore.
Yeah.
He would drill it into my.
Amen.
But he was, because he was a boxer and he could really hurt people. His father trained him to be like almost obsessive about it.
Yeah.
But those are great lessons. That's why you need a father.
And you need a father.
And the communists don't want a father. Black Lives Matter. Can you imagine the Black Lives Matter not wanting a father, where the black community, the most important thing they need are more nuclear families?
Well, they destroyed the family.
Yeah.
And this goes beyond Black Lives Matter. This goes back into the early
You're
90s
right.
when they decided to start shipping our factories overseas with NAFTA. NAFTA was the biggest killer of our families and the biggest destruction to our children that we've ever seen. They shipped the jobs overseas, and they made it where a company could be lucrative to, create products here in America. And when they did that, they took away the pride that a man has in being able to provide for his family. I'm a mother to a boy, and I'm worried about the boys out
How
there.
old is he?
He's 18. He's amazing, and if he's watching tonight, I love you, Leo.
You know, he's.
But I'm worried about our
He's-
boys. Our girls are fine. The
Yeah.
girls are fine. We have done so much to beat down our boys, tell them not to be men.
Oh, sure.
Tell them they're
I started
actually
seeing that like 15, 20 years ago. It
They're-
started worrying me about.
they get further ahead if they come out and say I'm a girl now, which is insane. We need strong men. Our country's only as strong as our men. And when they started pushing this globalist agenda, which was about tearing down manufacturing, sending it overseas, destroying America, they took those strong men who were working in factories. Those were good jobs.
How do we?
And use skills.
She should be the governor.
And
Look at this.
and what
100%.
happens? What happens
I
when?
mean, you are so smart.
But what happens when a
And-
man feels like when he's lost his job and he can't
It's
provide?
amazing. I mean, certain men can withstand it, right? They have very
They find
strong
another
egos.
job, but there aren't
most
any jobs
men and most women aren't supermen and superwomen. They're normal.
The
and
jobs
if you
aren't there.
And if you beat them down,
Yeah.
they lose morale. They lose self-respect.
At the same time, drugs are being pushed into our country. The crack epidemic
We can't expect the majority of our people to be like exceptional heroes.
This is why President Trump is the man for the moment. He came into office. Yes, I agree. I will clap for that.
So
It used to be the Democrats cared about the middle class. Now they could give a shit. Oops, did I say that?
100%.
we're allowed to do that on here.
They could give a damn about the middle class. President Trump wants to protect the middle class.
It's the
protect
President
family.
Trump part that take you off on, not to give
That's
a
right. Oh, that's right. And here's the deal. For those of us, and I mean, I'm doing well. I'm living off my savings, and I'm happy to do that because I want to save our country. But those people who are doing really well, when the middle class is lifted up and is prospering, we all prosper. When we let our middle class die, the whole country dies. Do you agree with that or not?
100%. You know, Donald Trump won in 2016 because he appealed to a group of people that some knew it, some didn't even know it until he came along, that for years felt left out, the middle class.
Yep.
They felt like
No one cares.
everybody has like a lobbyist. Everybody's got, in New York, we say, if you have like an edge, you have a rabbi. Everybody's got a rabbi.
We had a lobbyist. His name was Donald Trump. He was
Yeah.
working for We the People.
That was it. That was it.
Greatest lobbyist
That was
for the
it.
people.
So I have to ask Kari. I have a good friend back there, and he asked me a question I can't answer. I'm trying to answer it, and we spend a lot of time talking about it today. How are we going to be sure in 2024? And let's just stick with Arizona, because
Okay.
this lady was very involved from the very beginning in trying to get justice in Arizona when it wasn't
Mhm.
popular, and a lot of people in our party were not there. But in any event, how do we keep Arizona straight in 24 so we don't get a repetition of
2020 and 2022. First of all, and I'm not here just to give you a compliment, but this man cared more about our elections than almost anybody I know. He came to Arizona. It was January or December.
Oh, no, it was in December.
It was in
Before-
December of 2020.
Right.
And
And I had COVID
and
at the
and,
time.
and you had COVID at the
I
time.
didn't tell anybody.
And he brought forth evidence that showed our elections were fraudulent. And I remember watching that. And at that point I'd walked away from my job, and I was shocked the media wouldn't cover it. The media would not cover the biggest the biggest crime we've ever seen, the stolen election. And I talked about it. I decided to walk away from my job during that because it wasn't just COVID that made me, as a 30-year journalist,
Right.
broadcast
Right.
journalist, probably the highest paid person in Arizona in TV. Not that that matters, but I was a trustworthy voice in Arizona. I said, I'm going to walk away because I don't like the narrative that we're pushing with COVID. And I certainly don't like that our election was just rigged and we refuse to talk about it. And I remember you coming to Arizona and I said, why is the media not covering this? And it was shocking. So I pushed when I got into politics. I never decided to quit my job and get into politics. The people said, now that you quit your job, will you consider getting into politics? And to which I thought, wow, they must hate me because I just got out of the crooked news and they want me to get into the swamp. I don't think so. And then I thought about it, and I thought about what our founding fathers envisioned, which was citizen politicians, you and me stepping forward and getting involved in politics, not because we want long political careers. I don't. As a matter of fact, I would love nothing more than to get on with my life, but we have to stand up and fight right now. So I got involved in politics and I started talking about what happened in the 2020 election. It wasn't my number one issue. I talked a whole lot about our broken border plan, and we need to make sure that we're protecting our citizens with our border. But we can't ignore our elections. If we're not able to get the people we vote for into office, how do we get a secure border?
100%.
How do we get curriculum that actually educates our kids? And I was not afraid to talk about it. And then they called me an election denier, and I said, I don't care. Call me whatever you want, but we have to address this.
I knew about you before, always had a very high opinion of you. And then all of a sudden, and I heard you a few times, all of a sudden I'm reading these things that you're
Election denier?
election denier. I thought was a compliment. I thought that you're a radical, right wing. Well, I mean, I was a radical right wing. I used to be the moderate Republican at one time. I'm radical right wing. I'm involved with QAnon. The only thing I know about Q are Q-tips. So I thought maybe they thought I was abusing Q-tips.
They've stopped talking about that, I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, they all 5 members, went off to somewhere or other.
Yeah. Well, they get their drumbeat of their marching orders of what the left-wing media, and I hate to say left-wing because it's actually, we found out that, with Fox News firing Tucker and Dan Bongino, that they're no longer
what a damn
America
outrage that
first.
is.
Bingo.
And look, I'm not trying to disparage Fox. If you're going to be the establishment rhino news outlet, fine. You own the company. But MAGA, which is Make America Great Again, we want true American supporters to be on the network. Or otherwise, we don't want to watch.
We have to. I helped to put Fox on
the map.
On the map in New York, because when they first were established, when Roger Ailes first established them, Turner Broadcasting wouldn't put them on New York cable.
Really?
So Roger was my first political campaign manager and very close friend.
He's probably rolling over in his grave right now.
Yeah, could we use him now? Wow.
Yes.
And Rush. The two of them were like this. The two of them together. I think the two of them together, and we win this time. And I would convince Roger to get the hell out of television and go work with Steve Bannon and run the campaign.
Is Steve Bannon
That's another thing. Yeah, don't tell Steve Bannon.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people don't like Steve Bannon for good reason. I mean, he's a real pain in the ass. But I got to tell you, and I'm glad he's not here because I don't want him to get a big head.
Oh man!
When we
if
were
Steve Bannon were to show up, I mean, what would happen to your ratings?
What would happen to my ratings? Nobody listen. I get thrown off every network. No, they go through the sky. The guy is the biggest thing.
Just watch your step.
Oh man, your building will let anybody in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How are you, Steve?
How are you, Steve?
Love you.
So I'm gonna.
Hold on. I was specifically sent up here by management to tone this thing down and maybe
Yeah, the HOA sent him up.
This is pretty much a Trump building. So
This is so cool. We are in a smallish building in Palm Beach or West
You know
Palm
who
Beach.
lives right below us?
Who?
Winston Churchill's grandson.
Oh, good. Okay, I thank God I was not a liberal.
We used to have great conversations, and Winston Churchill's grandson turned into quite a conservative.
Good.
Yeah,
well, all of a sudden,
as Winston really was,
on and off.
When he got older. When he got older.
Oh, we're taking a
We're
break.
going to take a short break so we can rearrange.
And then we're going to sort out. We're going to sort out how Steve Bannon got let in the building.
Yeah. Brutal.
But I wanted to say, faith and family, freedom and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. I don't think we got to.
I don't see Steve.
We got to get Steve in a little more here.
Squeeze in.
No, we're gonna back it up a little bit.
Come on, act like your family, Steve.
Back up a little bit. Great picture here.
There you go.
A little lower.
Back it up a little bit here. We add our special guest tag here.
Oh, I love it.
All righty, we'll back this up. So
This is the most fun.
He is the father. He's the father. I
He's
would
the
say.
godfather.
No, he's the father of the MAGA movement.
Truly.
He really is. And we're back on. Welcome back. And we have, as you know, Steve Bannon. And I'm just going to be serious for 1 minute, and then I'm going to stop. This man knows the Trump movement better than anyone. Better than Trump, better than me,
Sure.
better than anyone. A lot of people know it, and a lot of people are helpful. But he's just got it in his head. He's been working on it for, I think, his lifetime.
In
And-
his DNA.
Yeah, and he knows the disaffection, which is a very legitimate disaffection for many reasons, not just one, that created the need for a Donald Trump,
Yep.
and how Donald Trump fulfilled that. And the other amazing thing about Donald Trump, how a New York billionaire can be the champion of the common man and woman.
It's amazing.
That is absolutely amazing.
tonight, I want to announce to the nation my new agent, Rudy Giuliani. all sponsorships. All sponsorships.
Love it.
Right.
Oh, I
He
love
speaks
him.
the
Right-
truth,
right-
though.
right
He
to
speaks the
Rudy.
truth, Steve.
Yeah, and
That's the truth.
so-
How did you get that?
No.
Because were you born in a working class family?
Blue
You were.
collar Irish Catholic.
That's how
family.
you get it.
Yeah. Five kids.
That's why you get it. And you were born in a working class.
I was working
Italian
class
family.
family, one Democrat, one Republican, both parents very interested, not involved, but very interested in politics.
And I was born in a big, large family where it was like, if you don't have a work ethic,
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
luck.
all of us probably had
But
that.
how
right?
did we get a Donald Trump born? I don't want to say with a silver spoon in his mouth because that sounds like an insult. I know he's been a hardworking. How did we get him? What is the DNA of
Divine
Donald Trump?
providence.
Divine
It's
providence.
providential.
That is-
Rudy was
Yeah,
there. Rudy was
like
there.
we
I
get-
know we got leaders there. We got ambassador. We got some of the guys who are with us in 16.
I wish
You
we could
guys
see
know-
the
you
crowd
guys
here, by
know.
the way.
This was, we were the gang that couldn't shoot straight, right? I mean, we had a candidate, we had a message, and we had a plane. Right?
That was it.
That was it. That was it. It was.
Did
a
you know you
organizing-
were going to be successful? Or were you like, God?
when on the 13th, when they had that big article in the New York Times, it was on a Saturday morning where they said Trump is 18 points down, everybody's leaving.
Oh,
There's
no.
a Maggie Haberman special, right? I mean, it had every quote in the world.
Well, yeah, they're
it was-
saying Hillary's going to win, 98%
Oh yeah,
chance.
98%. So
Hillary,
so some donors said, go talk to Trump. You got to take the campaign over. I've never been a campaign officer in my life, and I said, with 100% metaphysical certitude, you're going to win this if you just stick to a couple of basic things at your message, right?
Yeah.
Build the wall. About the economy, bringing jobs back.
Amen, amen.
Anti-CCP, it's elites versus the population. And he's a natural. I mean, he's a guy from Queens. At the end of the day, he's a guy from Queens, and Queens is the great melting pot.
But I
think of
believe
US.
that his ability, and I've seen him in action, I know you have, to talk to anyone. He can talk to
100%.
the guys in the black tie, billionaires,
enjoys it.
Big time.
to the construction workers who are
Yeah.
showing up at 5
He
a.m.
enjoys it.
and building his
It's
building.
real. So
And he's
he
probably more comfortable with the construction workers and the working class.
because they're real. Yeah, he's actually comfortable with anybody that's real. He'll be comfortable with a multi-zillionaire or a king who's real,
But it's
or
not,
a worker. Whatever.
we saw this in some of the disaffection to Ron DeSantis, where
Yeah.
you see these congressmen saying, "Hey, Trump's calling me. If something's wrong." The guy that fell off, Stubbe, who fell off the roof,
Yeah.
Trump called him right away. He said he hasn't gotten a call from DeSantis in 5 years. Trump's got the personal touch, but here's the thing: that's to me most amazing. It's just not the one-on-one personality. He's got a unique ability to connect to the
Truly.
common man in a mass communication.
Yeah.
These speeches,
rallies.
the rallies.
The rallies were
Rudy-
magic.
I would go to Rudy.
The rallies were magic.
Rudy's going, I'm doing this all my life. I've never seen crowds like this. And this was early on in 15, early in 15.
Yeah, I knew 9-10 months before the election, he's drawing crowds that you only draw in the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
You know,
or unless the
and-
Beatles came
You would
back.
tell me
Yeah.
all the time. that.
and
You would
he
tell me all
had
the
he
time.
had he had he's a year before he had election eve enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You know, 20,000 people, 30,000 people. I mean, Hillary could draw 4,000 or 5,000.
But they were paid
Yeah,
to be there.
I mean, she had a little, and the other guy, you know, he basically drew wheelchairs from his nursing home,
Yeah.
a couple of little cars that were mostly ours, right?
Right.
And he
Absolutely.
looked like they let him out for the weekend.
Are you talking about Biden?
That's his name, yeah, Biden. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He didn't even draw. Did you say fourth? Maybe 10. Remember when he did the rallies with the cars that showed
I
up?
thought that was hilarious.
And
It
it was
reminded me
like-
of when I used to go to drive-in movies
But there was nothing to
for a
see.
different reason.
At least
but-
at a drive-in movie, you had some action, right?
Well, I never saw anything. in a
Hang on.
drive-in movie.
Hang on.
Did you
This
ever
is-
see
this
anything
is
in a
PG.
drive-in
This
movie?
is-
You didn't-
Um,
Carrie Lake went there.
So where are we going from here? And I don't mean to turn the tables on you guys, but you guys were there in 2016. You were there in 2020.
So-
You've been there,
but-
whether in media.
If I don't get this answer, John will be really mad at me.
24.
So what are we going to do? What is there in Arizona, and this could be broader, that assures that we don't go through 20 and
22
and 24?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing.
And if it's not there, what should we do?
We're taking every legal action. We're taking every legal avenue that we can. And I know people say, "Oh, come on, we wanted a better answer than that." But we have to take the legal route right now. You know,
Of course, that's the only thing we can do.
the only thing we can do right now. And we're going to take it. We've taken it all the way up to the Arizona Supreme Court. And right now, the Arizona Supreme Court said, you know what? The lower court screwed up and they got to take this big part back, which is the sham of signature verification on these
hear
sham
you,
ballots.
I hear you, but I totally 1000% disagree.
What do you think?
Here's why. Look at what's happened in Tennessee over the last couple of days. Look what's happening in Montana.
Okay.
We're playing two different games. They're doing a color revolution in two of the most Trump states in the country to try to blow out their general assemblies, right? The left, this is a political war. And we're still playing by the Marquis of Queensberry's rules.
Yeah.
And they're not, right?
That's
And
true.
they're, by the way,
We're playing by
I
Alinsky.
cannot look, we've got here
Alinsky
one of
rules.
the greatest people in the modern history of this country, Rudy Giuliani.
That's right.
And we have one of the greatest natural political talents that has ever come on the scene in Kari Lake, right?
Thank you.
Every day they're out to destroy you, right?
I
Out
feel
to
it.
destroy you. No, I know you
yeah.
feel it.
I
And
know,
look
I
how they
feel-
stole the stealing of the election in 22
But don't you
is
think
worse than the stealing of the election in 2020.
it was more bold,
More
brazen,
brazen.
and they were like, we don't care that you know.
Exactly.
But do you think we should not at least try to go through the legal
No,
system?
we have to.
Or
Don't get me
should
wrong.
we
We have
just
to, but
say
I think we're
color
gonna
revolution?
No, we have to go through the legal system.
Because we actually
But
have a
we
case.
have to get much more serious about how we're going to win this, because these guys are not going to play by the rules. They're about winning. Look what's happened in our country in the last couple of years. Everybody looks around and says, "How could this happen? How could this happen so quickly?" Look at what they did to President Trump from the very second that we won, unless they never expected we were going to win in 16. I mean,
Yep.
Fox never thought. You know,
Yeah, that
it
was,
Roger-
I know
Roger-
that. I
Roger-
was with Roger
Ro-
and they were. And
In fact, Roger
Rupert has his pollster.
on Sunday. And
His
by the way,
pollster we were going to lose.
said they were going to lose. Roger Ailes called me on the Sunday before the election. I'm with Trump. And we're doing 20. In fact, you were with us, and they had come back. The Fox decision desk already said we're going to lose by 5 to 6 points.
Mhm.
Oh,
It's going
geez.
it's going to be a blowout. 350 electoral votes or more.
I love it.
Roger said, "Hey, will you come down and meet me in my place in Palm Beach? I've got the following." He says, "What are you doing following Sunday?" I said, "We're going to be putting together a government."
Good.
He says, "I hope you're not telling Trump that." I go, "Of course I'm telling
I
Trump
can't
that. Why
believe
we're in
Roger.
Wisconsin, why we're in Michigan."
it.
And he goes, "Oh, Fox, by the way, people should understand this thing with Tucker. This is 1000% to get a populist nationalist platform that speaks to an audience, that Charlie Kirk and Real America's, that is a broader people. They went to get that out. But Rupert Murdoch and those scumbags at Fox have been again beginning.
Yeah.
It was in 2015. In 2015 at debate where
They
Brett Baer and Megyn Kelly, remember Brett Baer
Tried to
said,
take him out.
Take
They
him
tried
out in
to
the first
take him
10
out.
in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But thank God they did. You know what? America was so rooting for
Exactly.
Trump.
Exactly.
when they threw
No,
those
it gave
just
him a chance to
hateful
show.
questions. I remember he said, only Rosie O'Donnell.
Right.
And the crowd went crazy.
Okay.
Only
hang on.
Rosie O'Donnell.
This is my point about a special talent. With that pressure, standing up for the very first time as a candidate on that stage where 20 guys have been, that's the crowd. In every vertical, they had the top libertarian in Rand Paul. They had the top limited conservative in Ted
Hundreds
Cruz.
of millions
Yeah,
of
oh, yeah,
dollars.
Hundreds of millions. With that, and they're coming at you in the first 10 minutes. Off the top of your head to respond as cool and collected as he did, you can't coach that.
Yeah.
That's a natural. And that's what I think turned the American people to say, this guy's serious.
Yeah.
And because at that time, remember, Roger and those guys were saying, or
Same people, by the way, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it because I always speak the truth. Those same people are behind the guy who's going to run against Trump in this election. And he's the Florida governor. And I will give DeSantis credit. They're going to watch after we put this out. They're going to go, Kari Lake attacked him. I didn't attack him. I'm speaking calmly. And I'm saying something very straightforward. DeSantis won re-election because the people of Florida want him to be governor. For him to turn around, run a shadow campaign that the people of this beautiful state are paying for is wrong. It's wrong. And President Trump helped create him. President Trump helped put him into office. And he talked about that last night at his big book event.
Uh-huh.
He's the guy. I mean, he was polling, I believe, Ron DeSantis at 3% against
Putnam,
crack
against Adam
addict
Putnam.
pervert.
You're talking about
no.
Gillum.
That was in the general.
The general election.
And he was 3%.
No, I'm talking about
in the
I'm
primary.
talking about in the first time he won.
That's
Yeah,
Putnam.
that was Adam
barely
Putnam.
polling
Yeah.
against a guy who turned out to be a crack
He's a
addict,
rhino.
meth
That's not a
head,
pervert.
pervert.
Yeah, Gillum. and
No,
the
yeah,
general.
no. You're right. I'm talking about the first time when Trump first supported him and made him who he is.
I-
You've got to have a little bit
Look,
of loyalty.
I know. I am not a fan of the personal attacks, right?
I'm not
and I've
either, but
told- and I know you're not doing it, but DeSantis is a good governor. We're in a war right now. We're in a war with the administrative state, with the D state to take our country back. We're in a war with the Chinese Communist Party. We don't have time to have on-the-job training. We had a
That's
guy
right.
that delivered 4 years of peace and prosperity in the
Amen.
most
Yeah,
turbulent
yeah,
time.
and-
I mean, you know the history
And
of this.
Steve, the primary is, I don't know if you agree with this. And from my point of view, of course, we've got to watch it and we got to be careful. But the primary is over.
I agree.
He's going to win the primary. There's no way DeSantis.
Should he debate? They just said today that they're going to be. Should Donald Trump get on a debate stage
I don't-
with these guys?
I'm not
he's
sure.
the draw. He's the ratings, and I think
won't say
he
no.
should have a
It'd be
say.
hard to talk
I
out
think
of it.
he should go on War Room and do a debate there. To be honest,
But I mean, he's beating them by so
He
much.
should not get. Look, the DNC, they know how to roll. Okay, this is the difference in the DNC and the RNC. The DNC announces the other day after Bobby Kennedy's on Tucker and at 17%, they come out and announce no debates.
Because
Yep.
they know
Yep.
they
They
got-
got a guy
Well,
says
how's Rona
70%.
Sounds like Katie
how's Rona
Hobbs.
doing?
That's
Rona went to the regular library with Bossy, our guy, Dave Bossy, who goes with Bossy, and they set it up to at the regular
Why doesn't he
library.
say, I'm going to follow the Democrat rule?
I
No
told
debates?
I've
Well-
told the president no debates. You
Yeah,
shouldn't
but-
debate. Why
but
give
there's
the
a-
Keebler elves? Why give the Keebler elves? Why give the Keebler
Yeah, I
elves?
love that.
That's what they are.
They're
Come
just
on.
gonna-
And you're gonna get
Lisa
money.
Hutchinson, Chris Christie. I mean, this is not real. This is not a primary.
Well, what if they do the top contenders? Actually, I like Trump. I like Trump in a more crowded field. To be honest, it's great television, but he needs to be calling the shots.
I
he
think
is
the
the-
shots- I think the shots. The primary's over. Focus on the general. Go after Biden.
When you win it by 30%, I mean,
So let the
primaries
other
go
guys
great,
just
great.
debate themselves and let it go.
I'm not so sure. I
Okay.
think after this disastrous foreign trip that is ill-advised. Here's the problem with DeSantis. The problem he's a good man. He's done a really good job as governor.
Yep.
He's got some
Oh.
terrible consultants around him.
Play the piece.
The consultants are going to make $25 or $30 million. They got him on this bogus trip to Japan and Korea for 2
It's
days.
for the Japanese vote.
And
But
they're
you
not.
can't, you can't produce
for the
your-
Japanese
you can't
vote.
you
They're
can't
not
get-
telling him. They're not telling him, Ron. We're in this
The
because we
big
want to make money.
Japanese vote.
No,
They're
yeah.
giving him terrible advice.
know
The
this.
people love him. He should stay governor
Ro-
and run in 28, and he'll be a powerhouse.
Robeson, they stole how much money from Robeson, the consultants? $10 million,
Every-
15 million bucks.
Every week they said pour 800,000 more in. Pour another.
Yeah.
You're
We'll
close
give it
there.
to you,
You're
800,000
close.
more.
The final weekend.
And nobody knows her, and the people who do know her don't like her because she is truly a rhino.
I hate to break up this conversation. Please wait right here. We have to take one more quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
faith and family, freedom and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. Had a talk with him about yesterday.
Who's him?
And, and the president.
Oh,
And
All right, and we're back. Thank you for joining us, America's Mayor Live.
What we could do.
We're on. We're back
We
live.
are back.
America's Mayor Live with
And-
special guests.
And we are going to now.
wait, can we talk about the party we have here? I don't know.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I
So
don't
I don't
know.
know if everybody can see this. Did we get that 360 camera up?
I don't know if this is normal when you do a podcast.
No,
that
we
you have
usually
a
have about
No,
party.
6
we're
or
putting that
7
up.
people. We don't have
Yeah,
as
this is
many
very. This
as
is a
usual,
special
but it
special
is-
occasion.
I mean, Steve is a surprise, and they actually were going to surprise me that he was coming. They were afraid I'd throw him out.
We were going to surprise you actually with the
Classic.
we're going to surprise you with the FBI showing up at your door.
We had the FBI
I've been
coming
there.
to my
I've
door when I had
been
my
there.
underwear on.
Yeah.
Oh man!
No,
But
but
Kari, we invited like 5 people, and look what we got. I mean,
it's great.
so we had to cut them off.
We have a party
coming
here. The HOA is mad, but we don't care.
You
Celebrating
don't
our
like
country.
us and like Trump, and the ones who love you,
Yep.
they'll go to the end of the earth for you. Ones that
And-
hate you
and-
want to kill you.
We'll go to the ends of the
Well,
earth.
and-
To kill
But
you.
that is it. Hasn't that always been in the
But I
the
think
history of human beings? that
they
when people
recognize
I
that,
stand
think,
for something?
I think it's worse now, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
they
mean,
recognize-
Jesus had it pretty bad.
that we're willing to go to the end of the earth to save our country. So we've got this great group. We've got people are
Yeah.
saying we got questions. We got Lee Rizzuto, one of the great patriots here. Are we going to do a quick question with him?
Yeah, we're gonna
All
have.
right, Lee.
Here, let me stand up. You're not on yet. I'm gonna put this chair
All
next
right.
to Steve.
They don't have to stand. They
And
can
you
No,
know
we're
what?
gonna
We
sit,
have
but I
no
want-
idea what the questions are going to be. They could
Yeah,
be.
I'm gonna move the camera. I'm gonna move the camera.
There we go. What do you have, Lee?
Introduce yourself.
Lee Rizzuto, former U.S. Consul General under the Trump administration,
Love it.
Patriot.
But hold it. But more importantly, the earliest guy ever to come in and back Donald Trump is right here, Lee Rizzuto.
Wow.
Day one.
He's a day one. He's day one, baby.
So I recognize the many patriots and the many tremendous minds in our party. But I hear something over and over again that I have to repeat. Part in jest, but pretty accurate. There's more UFO sightings than sightings of Ron McDaniel. The greatest deficiency of our party is the missing RNC. The RNC should be the voice and the platform of our party, whether it was January 6th, whether it was 2022, whether it's every event, every day, 24/7, 365. The party should be speaking on behalf of every one of us, every conservative and every patriot in our country. And that's the missing deficiency. And here we are, we renew a $750,000 salary for a person that's seen less than UFOs. So there you go.
Okay, who wants to start?
Let me start. I think I'm not saying I agree with you or disagree with you, but we did have that fight, right? And we had a very pitched battle. We had Caroline Wren, paper ballots.
No,
And we lost. I don't know if we have the opportunity now, given we're 18 months away, to fight that fight again. I
agree.
think we got to deal with what we've got. It's like the whole thing with the machines. Remember, we still have a big divide right now in our party about, 2/3 of Kari Lake's base does not only wants to go vote on game day still,
Yeah.
right?
I don't blame
about
them.
about
We should be
ballot
able to.
harvesting, about that. We've got some big
So
structural
can we do
issues.
two things at once?
Well, let me say
mean, we
one
could-
thing.
I agree with you that the RNC is nowhere near as aggressive as the DNC about being in your face. That being said, I think we got to live with what we got now
Yeah.
and try to make it. I mean, I asked the
Can I say
Carolina
one-
Reds-
Can
Yeah,
I
go
say
ahead.
one thing about
Sure.
that? Because I got involved in that fight, and she won. Ronna won in a landslide, and in a landslide. It wasn't close. It wasn't a squeaker. It was a landslide. And I've talked to her since then. I was not for her, but I recognize that she has told me she's willing to fight hard. We'll see what happens. But a part of me wonders if we would have brought a new person in, the learning curve is pretty steep in an election cycle to have somebody who's new. And we talk about like the ability.
What changes have you seen specifically in Arizona?
I haven't yet, and I'm waiting for it.
It's a ticket.
Well, I will say
ticking
this.
time bomb.
Ronna helped pay for some of our legal fees.
Right.
I'm going to give her that. I'm going to be credit where credit's due, and I will call people out where they don't deserve it. But my concern was I don't think we had a great candidate going up against her. Ronna was somebody who knew how to have that, just like Trump has a personal relationship. He knows how to work relationships against, and DeSantis doesn't have that. Ronna has that, and our opponent did not have that.
It's April of 2023. Do we have the infrastructure? Do you believe in Arizona? Because if we don't win Wisconsin, which we just lost the Supreme Court, if we don't win and got blown out, let's be frank. If we don't win Wisconsin, in Georgia, in Arizona, Donald J. Trump is not going to be president of the United States. The blue wall that you and I helped take down.
No, that was it.
But Michigan and Pennsylvania, I think right now,
we got to get
are
the
gonna be
PC.
difficult.
So
we gotta get the PC
here's my
somewhere.
point. My point has nothing to do, although it doesn't sound maybe the same, about attacking Ronna. It's about escalating the position and maybe Ronna understanding her position. She needs to be present. She needs to be. She is the head of the
Can I make a
RNC.
suggestion?
She needs to be out there 24/7,
Can I make
365.
Can I make a suggestion from my own experience and from, I think, the experience of the successful presidential elections? Don't worry about the RNC. Presidents don't win with the RNC. Mayors don't win with
They
the
don't
party.
help.
You put your own organization together.
Yep.
You think I depended on the Republican Party in New York City takes 1/3 of the bribes that the Democrats give them. I put my own organization, which is what he has to do.
But hang on. He got in 16. We had teams ready. Remember, we did two things in 16. We won and we closed. If you don't close, it's not a victory. Right. It's like a deal. You could win an M&A deal if you don't close. And Trump's a closer. He closed in those last 100 days. I said, Hillary's not a closer. You're a closer. In 2020, we got 74 million votes. Think about that for a second. 74 million votes. That's what I keep saying about DeSantis. There's not the whole group of Republicans running against him couldn't get 74 million votes.
That's right.
Okay. And we still are not in the White House. How could that possibly be?
Well, I
because
think-
we didn't close. And the question we have to answer, whether it's the RNC, the state parties, the Trump campaign, Okay, that's the
Is he
Democrat
interested
lawyer.
just in money?
Oh boy.
Well, he's a
get him
lawyer.
just for money?
He's a lawyer.
Then
He's a lawyer.
He's diabolical. He's
First off,
diabolical.
I want to say something. You talk about President Trump. You've been doing this most of your professional life. You go to Trump in 15, you see these rallies, and those are the type of things in presidential campaigns that are in the last week. Kari Lake is running a campaign for you guys that weren't out there. It was the Trump campaign in 16 to one, just at the state level, massive
She had the
crowds,
same kind of a
same crowd. And
I know.
you're telling me she didn't win?
No.
That Katie Hobbs that was in a basement the entire time and would not debate.
But
It's
see,
a joke.
they're
It was
getting-
stolen in broad daylight.
They're getting so bold. The diabolical, I don't even want to call it left, uniparty, globalists. They're so bold. They go, we don't care that we stole it right in front of your face. We don't care that and you're going to deal with it. That's what we're getting. And I fear that in 24, if they see Trump is marching toward victory, they will do anything they can to stop the elections. They'll start a war. They'll introduce a virus. They'll do whatever they have to bring down our elections rather than have the man that the people wants win. And so what do we do at that point?
I think it would be very, very smart, and it has to be controlled by the Trump campaign because they're the only one that you can trust, if they put together a task force with a lot of money, and in each state, you put together your own organization that's responsible directly to you to figure out. When I lost the first time, I was cheated. I didn't want to get cheated again. I couldn't contest the election because I would have lost in a Democratic city and I would have lost to the first black mayor and I've been ruined. So instead, I had a $10 million election. So think of the scale. I took $2 million out of the $10 million we raised for a voter integrity committee. I hired 2 people to do it. They were exceptionally talented. Randy Levine, who's president of the Yankees now for the last 10 years. And John Sweeney, who's a United States congressman. And they went and hired staff and volunteers 2 years before the election they started. And by the time election day came around, they had figured out how they cheated last time and what we had to do to prevent it. Now, on election day, I went up to Randy and I said, Randy, did we prevent the cheating? He said, boss, we prevented enough of it so you're going to win.
That's right.
They probably stole about 30,000 this time. They stole about 65 last time. But some of the precincts, we couldn't get people in there. Some of the places, it would have been useless to go to court because the judge is a complete, hack. But also the fact that we did it created a deterrent effect. The fact that we did it, and John and I were talking about that today, the fact that we were doing it, we made it very public that we were doing it. And then I'll tell you one little dirty trick that we played. One little dirty trick was
in New
need
York.
dirty
Dirty trick in New York. I'm so
but
shocked.
played by Republicans.
Children around.
By Republicans.
Republicans don't know dirty tricks.
How about this one?
Okay, give it
So
to me.
they went through East
I'm
Harlem, which is all Hispanic, and they gave out little cards, and the card said, if you come to vote, make sure you have your green card because INS are picking up illegals.
Oh my gosh.
So they spread it
kept
all
the
over the
illegals,
Hispanic.
yeah.
After the election, the Clinton Civil Rights Division investigated me. I was on vacation after the election, and I get a call from my lawyer, Denny Young, and he says, Rudy, we got the Justice Department's investigating us. Janet Reno's coming after us. We violated civil rights. I said, Denny, you're a lawyer. Think about it. What civil rights do we violate? They don't have civil rights. But all we did is prevent people who can't vote from voting.
Yeah.
Maybe we tricked them, but tricking is not a crime. Oh, and in those days, we didn't have crazy prosecutors. Nowadays, they probably prosecute you for it, even though it isn't. And that's the way we kept down the Hispanic vote. This is what we don't do.
Not the legal vote, the illegal vote.
Yeah,
Of course.
people don't have
Yeah.
the right to vote.
Illegal vote.
Yeah.
Can I?
The Hispanic illegal vote, which takes away the Hispanic legal vote.
That's right.
We have Lee and some other very influential people in this audience, right? Which I'm kind of shocked is over at Rudy's. No, I'm just kidding. It's very impressive. Very impressive.
We didn't
This
tell
is a
me
big crowd.
No, by the way, it'd been a third of the crowd. Okay. Mr. Sunshine shows up.
They love you. They love you. You know that.
What
They
we
love
need,
you.
thank you.
What
thank
does
you.
Steve have to say? What does Steve have?
Well, hold on.
What does Steve
Honored. My agent. We need you guys to get involved here. We need to stop this primary and focus 100% on Trump's general election campaign against Biden right now.
We need the time.
We need the time, and we need the money, and we need the focus. We've got to get focused on these states, and we can't have it stolen again. And that's where you guys can come into effect to tell these other candidates, we're not giving you any money. Governor DeSantis got to focus on, he's a great governor, focus on being a governor here. You got a shot in 28. The rest of the guys, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're all trying to get book deals or trying to get booked somewhere. It's all irrelevant. And they should just go away, and we shouldn't play the game the media wants. There is no primary. Donald Trump's up by 30 or 40 points a day. The the Chinese Communist Party is at war with us. The deep state's at war with us. We're in the beginning stages of World War III. Donald Trump's the only guy that gave us 4 years of peace and prosperity in the most trying time in American history. The country's coming apart. Only Trump, whether you like him, hate him, or if he drives you crazy or love him, he is the guy. And we got to put all forces in the RNC and Ronna and, quite frankly, Dave Bossie, junk these frickin' debates, scrap the whole thing. Trump shouldn't pay any attention to it.
You're right.
He should be hammering
It's a
Biden
sideshow.
and the crime family every day. Do you guys agree?
Steve, I have a suggestion for you, because I 1,000% agree. Starting with the RNC, we need someone like you to pull all these groups. In Washington, you got all these incredible
100%.
groups. You got the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
You have Freedom Works. You have the Freedom Caucus.
So smart.
Right? You have Young Americans
Tom,
for
yeah.
Liberty.
Yeah.
You have Turning Point USA.
Amazing.
Who's pulling all these groups together? So do you want to leverage a result? Head up, pulling all these groups together, and let's leverage the resources of all these organizations into one focus.
But that's where
We'll
people
do
can come
Yeah.
in.
We'll do
You can reach out and
That's
say,
a great idea.
I'm a Heritage Foundation supporter. I want you supporting
Yeah.
Trump.
Get them all on the same
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah.
And
I
all
like
of them,
that.
all
It's
of
a great
them,
idea, Lee.
Lee, all of them agree. Put the candidates aside, that Biden is not just a disaster. I bet every single one of them agrees that if the Democrats win this election, our country could be gone.
That's true.
Oh, it's
I
no
don't
doubt.
mean
It's
I
no
don't
doubt.
mean I don't mean affected. I
It's
mean
not gone.
the
Put it
country
forward.
as we know it will no
The
longer.
country that was bequeathed to us by 13 generations,
gone.
if we don't win this time, is gone.
Yep.
It'll be something radically different, and you can see it every day, from the schools to the universities to the entertainment to media to what's happening in Silicon Valley. Remember, in this country right now, we have a significant fifth column that actively supports the Chinese Communist Party for business reasons, right? So there's an active fifth column today. So we're going to lose. And this is what I'm saying. We don't have the luxury, even if you're not a Trump fan, we don't have the luxury of having some debating society. Right now, we've
Yeah.
got a guy that gave us 4 years of peace and prosperity. He's the toughest. Think about it for a second. Who else in the world is going to go up against the mullahs in Persia, the KGB in Moscow, the jihadis in Pakistan, Erdogan in Turkey,
Right.
Lula in Brazil, and little mini me in North Korea, and the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing? These are the worst collection. This makes as bad as Hitler and Mussolini and Imperial Japan.
Right.
And look at the devastation they did in World War II. 200 million people dead because of those criminals. These guys today could be worse with
Yeah.
biological weapons, with nuclear weapons, with artificial intelligence. We've got Trump. If you want, and it's just reality, you've got Trump. We got to get in back of him. I
Peace.
love the idea. I will start talking to some people about pulling everybody together, and we got to get and pulling the same. We got, and nobody's going to, there's always going to be things, whether there's abortion or taxes, whatever, there's always going to be issues we don't
We don't
totally
have
agree
room.
on.
We don't have
They-
room for it right now.
We can
They
fight on
want-
that.
We don't
afterwards.
have room for that.
They
debate
want us
right now.
fighting the culture wars, and there is plenty to argue about, and we can argue that. We're talking about an existential threat to our
Amen.
way of life, our
Mhm.
country being gone. We won't even be able to have those arguments on cultural stuff if we don't have a country. We got to save our country first, and Trump is the only way through that. And I'm going to speak from a mom, from a mother's perspective. I know you guys have children of your own. Do you want your kids going off to fight a war right now? One that we don't have to be in. I don't. I know my son would fight and my daughter would fight for a country if we were fighting a noble cause. What we're going to be pushed into fighting is not a noble cause. It's being rushed, and Joe Biden doesn't know what the hell he's doing or talking about.
Yeah.
We need to protect our own southern border and not send billions off
Amen.
overseas to protect another border.
I want to fight the war that we may have to fight and be prepared to fight the war we may have to fight and not fight discretionary wars. And I think the more we can prepare our military to be the best war fighting
I got
machine in
that.
the world.
But Ronald, look, I was a naval officer in the 7th Fleet patrolling the South China Sea and the Straits of Taiwan at 21 or 22. The last thing I want to see is a 7th Fleet in a kinetic
I
war
agree
right now.
with you. I agree
So,
with you.
no.
But
So
we
I
gotta
want
be
to,
prepared for it.
I want to win like Ronald Reagan did.
But he did it with a
Victory without bloodshed.
but he did it with a
with-
overwhelming army and navy.
But he also did it with
Scared the shit.
economics and technology.
did.
We could
But
cut
he
off
also
and
scared
destroy
the
the
shit out of
CCP. This is why we need Trump. And I'd
Yeah.
love your idea. We would pull people together, but you guys got to
I'm
help
making this
us
work here.
in shutting
There you go.
down. You got to help us in shutting down this primary, and let's get on with the work ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
But you do agree, Steve, that the best deterrent to war is to have the most overpowering military in the world. That's what Ronald Reagan did.
I'm not sure we
I'm
have
not
that
sure.
right
I'm not
now.
sure. Rudy, I'm not sure today with the weapons we
don't.
have.
That we can do that.
We're out of ammunition.
Artificial intelligence is so quick. Things are so quick. There are non.
Well, the best artificial intelligence. You've got to be the superior power. You've got to be the bully.
But under Joe Biden, we don't have that.
If you cut the Chinese Communist Party off of all capital and all technology from the United States of America in 6 months, Lao Beijing, the Chinese people would overthrow him.
Okay.
We don't need to fight and get ready for. By the way,
I
don't get
didn't
me
say
wrong.
we should fight.
No,
What I
just
say
to
is
prepare.
they shouldn't have a larger navy than we have.
I'm not sure. I'm not so sure we got the money to build the type of navy
We
we
don't?
need to defense.
and
No,
and
why
we
the hell
don't
don't
have
we
we
build
don't
it?
have the people in the military who are ready for
Well,
them.
then
And we
what the
don't-
hell are we going to do if we
And we
feel
don't have
fighting for it?
ammunition.
But let's look back at Trump, that he was attacked for speaking to North Korea. He was attacked for speaking to Russia. He was attacked for speaking to what we view as our enemies, and perhaps so.
Amen.
But the fact of the matter is, he took an intellectual and diplomacy approach as opposed to saying, watch out, I'm going to push this button. Perhaps he said that behind the scenes, but there's much to be said for diplomacy and intellectual approach as opposed to just saying, okay, I got the biggest gun. Because you might have the second biggest gun and it doesn't matter anymore because today the technology is so great, we're all dead.
I think the
Fabulous.
diplomacy works. Well, what did he say the other day? I told Putin that if you went into the Ukraine, I'd bomb Moscow. And he didn't believe me. Just 10%.
That's right.
That's a Reagan.
That's a good.
I work for
that's-
Ronald
yeah,
Reagan,
yeah.
so I'm prejudiced about that. But Ronald Reagan came into office to do three things. One, to defeat communism, because he was the only one who actually believed we shouldn't have détente.
Mhm.
And they were evil, and they were eventually going to take us over if we didn't defeat them. Number two, to produce a strong economy, and number three, to retire the debt. He accomplished 1 and 2, and he gave up 3 to destroy Russia. To spend,
Yes.
Gorbachev in his book says, Ronald Reagan spent me into oblivion.
Yes.
And that, I think that reflects, you have got to have,
We don't have that balance sheet anymore, Rudy.
well,
Is
we're going
this-
to have to work toward.
No. Volcker and Reagan, we're not that country. We were a manufacturing superpower. We had actually pristine balance sheet, right? We had a different workforce.
So if war is computer now, so why aren't we the best at computers?
Well, I think we can be. My point is that the old playbook of just building kinetic
Well, I'm
forces.
not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying to be, however we're going to fight a war, we should be superior at it.
Well, but we need a strong person who's leading our country. And right now, if Joe Biden stood up and said anything,
Oh my God.
these other leaders would laugh in his face. When Trump said
Right.
he got along with everybody and he said he would shake Putin's hand and then he would say, you try something, I'm going to bomb Moscow.
Right.
And Putin believed him.
Well,
Just like when you went after the criminals and said,
They
we're
know how
going
to
to put
do
you
it.
behind prison.
Yeah, I know how to do it. I never had it. I told them if you do anything illegal at the beginning of a protest, I'm going to arrest you, because that's how it becomes a riot. Because we had so many before. I never had one. They never
Because
even
they
tested
believed
me.
you. They
If
believed
you say
you.
it with credibility
Yeah.
and they think you're a little crazy, they no, seriously, there's a real value to that, thinking Trump's a
big
little
time.
crazy.
Exactly.
And also,
Maybe when
The
you
10,
put
the 10%,
you were there.
the 10% he
yeah.
might bomb Moscow.
You were there, I think, when he was having the dinner with Z, and then he went off and
Yeah.
bombed Syria.
Yeah.
Came back, and that was an act. I mean, in the sense that he comes back, he just doesn't even tell Z, and he goes on with his. He just bombed people. He comes back, he sits at the table, and Z finds out that
of which I was the one voice of the National Security Council that opposed.
okay, or he does it. But he sits down.
Yeah.
He sits down.
Yeah, and so-
Doesn't even tell him. Z finds out. He says, "Did you just bomb somebody?" He said, "Yeah."
That's great.
Yeah, where's dessert?
That's playing on the guy's head. That's playing on the guy's head.
That's true.
I don't know if he should have bombed him or not. That's not the point. The point is he saw an opportunity to play on his head, and he knew how to do that.
Well, I think
Joe Biden doesn't know how to play on his own.
But
head.
I think Lee's right in the fact that he had the full, as a business guy, he used the full spectrum. It
yes,
was
he's a
diplomacy,
fabulous
it was
negotiator.
economics. He knew how to put pressure on people. He knew how
a
to
few
use
mind
media.
games.
A few mind games, definitely mind games.
You take everything in your
Right.
toolbox and you use it. But I think the thing I worry about
That's
most
100%
guys
true.
is that when we have a stolen 2020 election, a
Big
stolen
time.
22 election, people say, "Why would I vote?" And I want if
That
we
I
get
won't vote. That I won't. He's worried about.
people say, "Why would I vote?" They're stealing it.
He's
and
actually
this
worried
is-
that there's like a morale.
Truly, and I don't blame people, but I want to say to the people listening tonight, I want you to spread this word. This is exactly what this uniparty swamp wants. They have stolen enough elections now to show us that they're evil, and they want us to throw our hands up and go, "I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to get involved." We can't do that. This is when we have to double down and we have to vote even harder, like our lives depend on it. Vote even in their corrupt system. We can't, they want us to go back to sleep, go back to our lives and let them run the show. They hate the fact that the grassroots has stepped up and got involved. The grassroots got involved and elected Donald J. Trump. The grassroots is still involved. We're running our Republican state parties and we have to stay involved. As hard as it is, as pissed off as we are, and there's no one more pissed off than me, but stay involved and vote. I beg you to vote even in this corrupt system. And I believe this go around, we're going to have some changes. That's why I'm fighting our election case.
Well, we love you,
We
but
love you.
we need you everywhere. I would like to see in the key states, a lot of them you don't have to. I'd like to see some real work done by pros. What do we need? We have time to get it now.
Yeah.
And
But
then
not-
how?
we're burning daylight though.
And then how can we do it? Because this is doable.
I think
I
we have a summit-
used
I
to
think we
say,
have a summit, get all the team, get all.
Well,
the
we got to
groups
fight
in together.
paces.
in desperation, when we were fighting those election cases, 4 weeks behind,
Yeah.
5 weeks behind, we got great people that came in. If we had had them 2 years earlier, it would have. We need them. We got to do what we did after the election, before the election.
Can I thank you guys for letting me crash this tonight?
We love it.
It was,
Yeah,
it
we
was
love
the greatest thing
fantastic.
ever.
Thank you guys so
Of
much.
course, we love
And
it.
thank this lovely audience down here. You
So
guys,
awesome.
you guys are the best. I mean, Rudy throws a live podcast on Getter, and you got 25 hitters here, players.
What I want to
Long
know
ball
is
hitters,
what I want to know
players.
is, do the neighbors know this much is going on here next door?
I hope some of these are the neighbors.
They know the neighbors. Number one, I don't think I have a dissenter here.
Good.
If I do, they're very quiet. And number two, it's after Easter, and half of them are gone.
Good. Perfect.
Mayor, we're now in soccer time. Do you want to explain to our great guests what we mean by soccer time? See how long they want to stick around.
Well, we'll take one or two more questions. That's what we'll. Soccer time is when we go after 9 o'clock, and we don't know when it's going to end. Like
Oh,
the stupid thing they do in soccer, which drives me nuts. The game's over, and you have more time, but they don't tell you
Raise
how
your
much more
hand.
time.
Anybody
Anybody have a
watches
question?
soccer deserves
Raise
to
your
have
hand
that.
if you have a question.
That's what
Right
Curtis
here.
Lee says. He
We get a mama
drives
bear.
me nuts. What the
I
hell's?
have one question. You mentioned Mr. Lee Rizzuto here being one of the early supporters.
That's
Not
right.
one of
The earliest
Hold it,
supporter.
hold it. This guy walked in and wrote, was it 500,000 or 250? 500. The first guy to walk into President Trump, at that time candidate Trump, and stroke a $500,000 check.
And
Whoa.
never wrote a political check before.
Never wrote a pro check for. And here's the
Wow.
thing
Yeah,
with
but that's-
here's the thing with Lee.
That's amazing.
This is the type of guy he is, and this is the type of guy that Trump attracts. Never asked for anything. I've known this guy forever. Never. Hey, wrote it.
Did you-
win? What can I
Look,
do to help win?
I know Trump from a very interesting point of view. As the U.S. attorney in his city, I investigated everybody in his city. I I know he's not crooked because it would be an insult to me if he was. I'd have caught him and put him in jail
and
like
you wouldn't
everybody
be, you
else.
wouldn't be
would.
hanging out with
And
him.
I'm going to give you, and I feel vindicated. They spent millions of dollars to investigate 30 years of his life. And this is the crap they came up with. They had to make up a crime that's a
Bogus.
misdemeanor built on a non-existent misdemeanor, built on a non-existent felony.
Right.
That's a joke.
Rudy is not going to turn us down. He turned us down last time to be AG. So because
go straighten it out?
No.
Well, I think
because
New York City
know
wants him back.
No. You know how bad DOJ is. But if you don't take DOJ, we're going to make you Southern District.
We got
The
another
US
question
attorney
here.
Come back and make you the Southern District.
We got a mama
man.
bear? No, we've got an amazing individual who's got a question. Introduce yourself and ask
That'd
the
be like
question.
shooting fish in the barrel.
Hi, Annabella Rockwell here. Kari, that crackhead Gillum, I used to work for him.
Oh no!
That's a story for another time. What I want to know is you mentioned the Chinese fentanyl push through our southern borders. Who in North America is in on that? Because it can't just be China.
I think people imagine the cartels, the Mexican cartels, being just a bunch of like drug runners that you picture them and they've got backpacks on their back. This is a multinational
Yeah, absolutely. That's very
company, right? These are
everybody thinks they're all
sophisticated,
poncho 30 years
expensive
ago.
suit wearing, 2 and 3 homes. This is it's almost a corporation. And the greatest partner in all of this is a bumbling fool named Joe Biden. He opened that border up to allow this to happen. I've been on the border too many times to even believe this is accidental. Trump, I covered Arizona for 30 years, almost 30 years. The borders were never more secure than under Donald Trump. He came in immediately and recognized that was a major problem. He started shutting down this illegal activity, did everything right. And he had to fight even the Republicans. He had to fight people who had been talking for 20 years about securing the border. Now he's saying, let's do it. And he got attacked by them. He had to fight tooth and nail.
That is a brilliant question because that is why Hobbs is in as governor illegitimately, and you're fighting in court to become the legitimate governor. The cartels are in business with business interests and the banking interests in Arizona and other states in this country are active partners to launder the money back in. They do a lot of it through real estate transactions. They're just like we have a fifth. Remember, the fentanyl invasion is nothing more than the second opium war against us this time. The British East India Company did it against China in the 1840s. That's how they got Hong Kong.
To destabilize us.
Well, it was originally destabilized China. They're here to destabilize us. This is it's the third front of the war of the Chinese Communist Party against us. And they have, like, when I say a fifth column, you have bankers, you have financial institutions, you have real estate interests,
government officials,
and government officials in Arizona that are in business with the cartels. The cartels could not do it by himself, and you're absolutely correct. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, the Secretary of State, the illegitimate Secretary of State of Arizona today is a former cartel lawyer.
Yep.
They hire top law firms. They hire and by the way, if you ever seen the movie Sicario. Sicario lays it all out. These guys are sophisticated.
That's the most important point.
Multi-$100 billion business.
I used to say that our borders were controlled by the cartels. Our state is now controlled by the cartels. They stole an election in broad daylight. They know the people know it, and they don't care that the people know it. They have corrupted Maricopa County to the point where they're like, we own everybody. We own the lawyers, the judges, everybody, and we're fighting it right now.
If you followed the campaign of Kari Lake's central thing wasn't an election integrity. That was a very high priority. We have to have her number one issue as you went around in Arizona is that the second I take my hand off the Bible as governor, I'm putting the Biden administration on notice that I'm going to close the border in Arizona, and I'm going to start. I'm going to designate the cartels as a terrorist organization in Arizona and start arresting people, arresting the bankers and the real estate. That is why they came after Kari Lake. This was an effort by the cartels and others say, just like with Trump, these guys are going to play hardball. We got to get rid of them.
Steve,
and they knew that I meant what I said, just like what they thought with Rudy.
The American people actually don't understand the Mexican cartels. They have a notion of them that's 30 years old.
Yep.
The Mexican, I was in charge of drug enforcement in the 1980s. I headed in Manhattan and in the 1970s. Mexican cartels were secondary players. The Colombian cartels were the major players. The mafia, Chinese organized crime. With the destruction of the Colombian cartels, with a great effort, that switched all to Mexico. They made great deals with China and with ISIS.
Mhm.
Don't forget, they've been partners with ISIS for 15 years. It became an enormously sophisticated organization. And even I was shocked when I went to take a good look at it about 5 years ago. Someone asked, who do they deal with? They deal with themselves. They have their own people right in the United States.
Amen.
30 years ago, the Mexicans would just hand the drugs off.
Yeah.
Now they're like the mafia or in New York, there are 1,000 representatives of the Sinaloa cartel,
Amen.
the Gulfo
Amen.
cartel.
Amen.
They are businessmen.
Amen.
They are not
Lawyers.
raunchy looking
Yeah.
Poncho.
Yeah.
They're
Financiers.
sophisticated as
They're
hell.
not,
money
they're not
laundering.
back
They're
alley.
richer than the Colombian
crooks. Yeah.
cartels, and they're smarter.
It takes sophistication to loan that much money. In the second Trump term, you will see direct
He was getting there, Steve.
paramilitary and military
Good.
interdiction of the cartels.
And the
in
people
Mexico.
are behind that. The people are
His
behind
last 2 years in office, fentanyl was down
I know it.
for the first time
Exactly.
in 20 years.
All right, we get
down.
that. We get another question, guys.
Wow.
Introduce yourself.
Hi. Well, this is Mr. Mayor, Steve Bannon, the amazing Kari Lake. I was informed last night by my president that my children not only belong to me, but they belong to the nation. And I thought that was very strange because I thought that my children were mine and that I had control over their lives and their beliefs and how they grow up. I mean, what do you guys think? Do my children belong to the nation and to Joe Biden? Because
Well,
they
this
had-
is-
my
this is
children
one of the
were
most-
actually were 4 and
I'm
7.
just confused about one thing. You said my president.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The-
Is Joe Biden my president to anybody?
I know. I was like, what?
Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
Okay, I'm Mr. Bannon. I'm a Christian. I'm trying to be respectful as I want my children to be. But
So,
if
so
I-
Joe
if you
Biden,
ask me,
basically,
all I
Joe
would say
Biden
is,
said,
"Let's go, Brandon," is what I would say.
yeah.
But anyways,
Wow.
you know, so-
Hold it. You're not open to co-parent with the state? Is that what you're telling me? You're not open to co-parent with the
Does that
state?
shock you?
Steve,
mean-
they're not open to co-parenting with her. They want to take
No.
over. So this is one of the 5 central tenets of Marxism. Marxism, Mao, you name it. You get God out. You beat the hell out of a country's history, the
Mhm.
statues or whatever, and you get
Not
rid of those.
teaching history.
And you take over the kids. Hitler wanted to take them over at 2 years old. That was the optimum time to take them away.
Yeah.
And that is true of Mao. It's true of Stalin. It's true of Lenin. And it's right in the Black Lives Matter playbook. Number two objective: get rid of the nuclear family. Because they're not Black Lives
But
Matter.
it's not
They
happening.
were
It's not happening in my family.
Well, I know it's not happening, but it's happening in a lot of families, and they've been doing it for about 25 years.
Absolutely.
So Kari Lake, that's Katie Hobbs's number one thing, is become a co-parenter. Her radical already in Arizona is over the top
It's terrible.
with the trans ideology, the co-parenting. You see the parents' rights movement. So what is the difference? What were you going to do or going to do
Well-
as governor to break? This is the Marxist stranglehold on the family.
One of the greatest things that's happened over the past 3 years is that homeschooling families have skyrocketed.
Absolutely.
Thank God. Take it back, bring it back home. And, Katie Hobbs, when she was in the state legislature, which should have been a huge red flag, which was a red flag, was she introduced legislation. When you put your name on legislation, you're proud of it. She co-sponsored legislation to introduce sex ed in kindergarten. This is outrageous.
Nothing to be proud of.
If you talk about sex at work, you're going to get fired or sued for, or you're on a list, and you should be. Nobody wants to hear about your sex life. Keep it private. And we certainly don't want you pushing that stuff to our children. It's wrong. Her husband, we understand why, because her husband's involved. He's a psychiatrist who talks kids into that crazy stuff that they can change gender. They're making money on it as a family.
Okay.
And this is where they're gonna lose it.
Homeschooling's great. I'm a huge supporter of that. The charter schools are great. I went to Catholic school all my life. The Catholic schools, the classic Christian schools are great, but we can't leave behind
No.
2/3 of the nation, and particularly the minority kids.
This is
When
why
they
we.
get their hands on the minority kids,
This is
with
why
the poison they're putting in through the public schools. So what
you're
how
absolutely
how
right.
do we solve
Well,
that?
in our school called for banning all of that gender nonsense to our pushing an agenda where we did the 1776 project, which is about teaching a true American history. Our country is the most exceptional country in the world, teaching the basics for our kids, and then introducing true life skills. I mean, if you ask any mom and dad who has got a teenager, they would love for their son or daughter to be able to learn the trades again, vocational training, and common sense in school.
But Arizona
and
did,
we've got to root out
but-
these.
But
these
Arizona
school-
also did something that's very important. You attach the money to the
To the
kid,
student.
to the
100%.
student in the
Yeah.
public school.
We were the
not
first
to the
state-
school. Talk to us about
We were
that,
the
because
first
that's a game
state.
changer.
We call it ESA. Some people call it vouchers. We were the first state to do that. And in Arizona, we passed basically your tax money is attached to your child, and you choose where the child goes. Do you want to go to a Catholic school like Steve did? Do you want to homeschool? Do you want to go to a charter school? And the minute Katie Hobbs, that squatter, took control of the office, she tried to pull that back.
Did she?
Mhm.
Accomplish
She's
it?
working on
Oh, they
it.
hate
She's
it.
not been she hasn't accomplished it yet.
hate it.
The
Oh,
unions hate it.
I fought major battles with the union.
But we
over
have
that.
to stand up for our
She's a
money
100
to
you're
follow
100%
our
right.
students.
That's the
When we
key.
put our tax money to our to the students, it's our tax money for education is not assigned to some public school. It's assigned to the student, and we have to stand up and fight for that. That's where the moms and dads can
And
get
and
involved.
when you
And
do
the
that,
parents
you
make the
engage the
decision.
parent also.
Yes, the-
You
the investment
But
decision.
then you might be a domestic terrorist.
That's okay. We don't care what they call us.
you know,
You might be labeled.
does anybody realize, because everything in the Biden administration is about two things. It's about money and communism in China. Money, communism, China, China, communism, money. Garland's son-in-law runs one of the largest, I call it gender changing organization, basically a propaganda organization to get kids to doubt their gender. He's making a fortune doing it. And this guy Garland is labeling people who oppose it as terrorists. You don't think there's a connection between the two things? Of course there is. Garland is a complete crook.
Mhm.
And his son-in-law is some kind of a creep that wants to mutilate your kids. I mean, and nobody, and the
But
press
just so
never
people
covers
understand
that.
something,
press doesn't cover it.
communism is not about everybody getting a piece of the action. The Chinese Communist Party run the way the Bolsheviks run. It is all about power and central control. And that's what, remember, we were going to
Tell 'em
change.
how many are
We were going to
communists.
change only 92 million people in
Out of how
China.
many?
Out of 1.4 billion, there are 92
Wow.
million communists. And of the
Hmm.
92 million, only about 1,000 actually make decisions. The rest are just functionaries and grundoons. It's about power. Here's what's happening. If you look at the United States, we're taking over the characteristics of the authoritarian aspects
Right.
of the Chinese Communist Party. This this week, Biden signed an executive order about environmental justice. That environmental justice, because he can't get these things passed through Congress because we control the House. In the environmental justice executive order, he sets up essentially a social credit score, just like the Chinese Communist Party has. The administrative state and the deep state have every aspect of the authoritarian impulse of the Chinese Communist Party, and that's how they want to run it, with an iron grip, where the parents are domestic terrorists, where they take control of it. They're doing the same playbook of the French Revolution, the Nazis, the Bolsheviks, and the CCP
Well, I
under
can-
Mao and the Red Guard. It's exactly the same playbook. That's why this fight, I'm telling you, the gap between us and our opponents is not bridgeable. You can't negotiate this. You can't compromise this. First off, they're not going to compromise.
There's no coming
They're-
to the middle.
There's no coming to the middle.
And listen,
You and Katie Hobbs can't work a deal out because
There-
you're at
there are-
opposite sides of these issues.
there are things we can work with people on. There's basic issues that we can go, well, maybe we can negotiate a little bit here. There's no coming to the middle when they want to mutilate our children. There's no coming to the middle when they want to brainwash our children, when they want to lie about our history. There's no coming to the middle when they want to pussyfoot around stopping the cartels at the border. We can't come to the middle on this stuff. And I don't think moms and dads want it. And the biggest force they're going to be met with are the mama bears out there. The mama bears who don't have a lot of time. They're raising their kids. And now they say, crap, I got to stop and I got to help save my country, and they will, but they're not going to be happy about it. They will tear these people up. The left and a lot of these people pushing this nonsense on our children don't have children. And I know we've all seen those videos of a dad or a mom or two dads lifting a car off of a child who's unfortunately been run over by a car. And you go, how in the hell did they lift that car?
Mm-hmm.
It is that protective instinct that is in each and every one of us, moms and dads. We will do whatever it takes to save our kids. And the left has messed with the wrong people. Now that the moms and dads are involved, it's not going to go well for them because we will die for our children. And they don't understand that. They have messed with the wrong people. And the moms are going to run for office and the dads are, and we're going to step up and we're going to do whatever we have to. We're not stopping.
We have one final question.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm Phil Nicozisis. I'm local here to the Palm Beach area. I've been here about 20 years. And I just want to say that living here where our president, not the resident who was installed in Pennsylvania,
Right.
the real president,
Amen.
living here with all the people that come through the MAGA Brain Trust. We are actually, the way I look at it, we're the government in exile.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Very good point.
No, seriously, you talk about education, and I will say this: I'm not a fan of the war room. I consider myself a student of the war room. And what I tell
Wow.
people,
great.
That's
what I
very
tell
nice.
people, is that anybody who watches the war room on a regular basis, it's your PhD in statecraft.
That's right.
And so it's where we get a lot of ideas. So the latest idea I got from Steve and the War Room Posse is RFK Jr. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and a friend had sent a text. He said, watch this 2-hour speech from RFK, the announcement speech. And so 4:15, I put it on, I'm laying there. And I heard an America First, MAGA-ish speech from this RFK Jr. guy who has a terrible voice. It is hard to understand, but you know what? There's probably 100 things that he has said that we would hate. But the things that he was saying in the here and now really resonated with me. And you know what? And I'll finish and then you can comment. I saw Donald Trump last week and I had a quick conversation with him. I said, you know, today's MAGA Republican is yesterday's Kennedy Democrat.
That's right. Kennedy would be an America First
I thought I would be
patriot.
consider myself a Kennedy Democrat, but I think I'm just about there to be a Kennedy Democrat, and I want it now. Since you're going to be governor, as Steve just said,
Yeah.
or you're going to be.
We're not cheating on you,
yeah,
Kari.
yeah,
We're not cheating on you. We're not cheating on
Senate,
you. She jumped me the other day. Did you say Kennedy?
cabinet
No,
position.
but talk about that. Talk about it for a second, because look, our
Like you
first
said-
our first draft picks, I think there are a number of women that could be amazing vice president for President Trump, and I think Kari Lake to me is at the top
No
of that
doubt
list.
about it.
Now, we're not going to be able to pull her out of the governor's house after we took such a tough fight to get there,
No.
but she's the top of my list. If we don't select one of these women, and if things continue to get worse and we need a unity ticket, I think that only MAGA and only Trump can sit there and say, okay, a Trump Kennedy ticket, because we're not
70%.
70% of the country. And we're not going to, okay, on guns, there's so much on Bobby Kennedy we're not going to agree on.
Yeah,
Abortion,
yeah.
there's a lot. But when you got to, the two speeches I would strongly recommend you guys go look at. He went to Hillsdale College.
Mhm.
There's not a more limited government, conservative crowd, intellectuals than at Hillsdale, right? It's our
Pure
Princeton,
American.
pure American. He got standing ovations. He gave a talk there about a month ago.
Yeah, yeah.
8 standing ovations because he talked about the administrative state, the biopharma. And then the announcement speech, it was a little long. It was about 2 hours. But man, he took every theme that really is in the wheelhouse of President Trump.
He said, "This is what happens when you get censored
This-
for 18 years."
Amen.
This is what shows you, though.
He also said, "I have so many skeletons in my closet."
Yeah, that was
And
that was
if
that was a
the
great sense of
skeletons
humor.
could vote, he'd be king of the world.
He would make
As a
on that-
Democrat, the
hold on.
skeletons
he would
can
make
vote.
Trump look like a choir boy.
Yeah.
You know
Okay?
what,
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
guys? This shows you that this is not about Democrat, Republican. It's about America. Are
Amen.
we up for saving America? We can put some of the stuff aside. We can set some of our differences aside, but it is critical that we join together as Americans and say this Constitution is non-negotiable. We've got to save this Constitution, our God-given
And
rights.
you talked about Trump. Trump is the only guy with the street smarts and the savvy of New York that could take a Kennedy and to work with a Kennedy that you can actually do something, get 2/3 of the nation to back it, and then make this happen. Compare and contrast Donald Trump to Joe Biden.
Well,
The
this
day
is
after that speech, the DNC came out and said, no debates.
of course
Right? No debates. They
They
do
can't.
not want Bobby
Yeah.
Kennedy on a stage with Joe Biden, make him look like a
Even with that voice of his.
Bobby Kennedy,
Even with the voice.
Bobby Kennedy has an illness, a speech impediment, and they're afraid to have Biden debate with a guy who's got a
Imagine that.
speech
Yeah.
impediment. Now, if you read his book, I was a Kennedy Democrat. I was his. I was the coordinator of the college campaign for Kennedy for Senate in New York when
Wow.
I was in college, when he was running. And actually, I was in the first year of law school, come to think of it, because
his father, not Jack Kennedy.
Jack-
You're talking Bobby
I'm
Kennedy.
talking about Bobby Kennedy.
Wow.
I was, and I love Bobby Kennedy because Bobby Kennedy was a prosecutor by nature.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, look,
the,
with
the
McCarthy-
real, I,
with McCarthy
Go.
and Roy Cohn.
well,
With
y-
McCarthy
yeah, I'm
and Roy
gonna
Cohn.
tell you,
Right.
I'm gonna tell you to go.
Anti-communist.
I want you to go get Kennedy's book about Fauci,
It's amazing.
in which he
Amazing.
rips Fauci apart.
Can I say one thing on that book
But
really quick?
mo-
Every journalist should be doing a story. There's a million stories in
And
there
he's got
that need to
he's
be
got
uncovered.
he has and he has 1,000 footnotes, so he did their work for them.
And the
But
journalists
the
were
most
crickets.
important thing about that book to this conversation is this: go look at the section about communism. He has inherited Joe McCarthy. That's the father.
Mhm.
He's inherited Joe's views on communism. This guy goes back and he starts talking about how the communists started to infiltrate us in the 1920s and 1930s. He learned that from his grandfather.
Mhm.
And he talks about, even this is heresy for a Democrat, even how Roosevelt was limited by the communist infiltration in his administration. So there are things we disagree about, but there are some remarkable things on which we agree,
And the irony is,
and remarkable insights.
whoever thought that ticket, a Palm Beach ticket of Trump and the Kennedys giving their history in Palm Beach would be the ticket to save the nation.
Well, let me tell you one thing about Kennedy. I think
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
that I think that he is amazing. His book is the most important book I've read probably my life, because he uncovers what Fauci's been up to. And Fauci, without a doubt, should not only be behind bars, he should be behind bars for life
Amen.
for what he's done. Thank
Yeah.
you for the for Bobby Kennedy Jr. for
Thank you.
Well-
I think that America, though, is worried a little bit about these, family dynasties, and there's definitely a place for a Kennedy in a Trump administration. and I
Yeah,
hope he would bring him in.
No, I think
I'd love to see him heading up the FDA and to stop this big pharma hold and strangle on this country.
yeah, it may be too much, too many. Yeah, Ronald Reagan had a great expression who said, "My 80% friend is not my 20% enemy." But if it becomes 60-40, which those are probably the differences with Kennedy, it might be a little tough. But it's an interesting thing to look at, and the exercise alone helps us to bridge one of the gaps that we have right now. But it's remarkable on the things where he agrees with us. Sometimes he agrees with us more than even we do. I mean,
Yeah.
he is really
It's not perfect.
strong.
I'm not perfect. It's not going to happen. But here's what I would love: if President Trump, when he wins the second term,
Took him in.
if he
yeah.
unleashed Bobby Kennedy on the administrative state, God help him.
Yep.
Right? Because this is he's got the Kennedy toughness and grit.
Got his
And this guy,
father's-
it's a crusade on this thing, on the vaccines and the biomedical and the Fauci. The Fauci book is about as accessible. It's like the phone book. It's totally inaccessible. He sold 1.5 million copies. And when you started reading, you couldn't put it down. We sold
No, and it's a-
750,000
it's a-
copies on
and
War
it's
Room
not
alone.
it's not an easy book
Not
to
easy.
read, but you want to read it.
Right.
And finally, you want to go a little historical. It reminds me of the way his father pursued Jimmy Hoffa.
Wow.
And I eventually took the Teamsters Union away from the mafia. And when I got attacked, then Vice President Bush for Ronald Reagan said, "Well, he just accomplished what the Kennedys wanted to do."
Wow.
Is Rudy Secretary of State, Attorney General, Chief of Staff?
The mayor.
I gotta
You know what I wanted to do? He knows this. What I wanted to do first time with Secretary of State. Second time, I wanted to have a 1-year appointment to fire people.
good.
I realized it's one of my talents. When I became mayor, I fired 12,000 people.
Good.
I got rid of them all in one day. And they said I couldn't run the city. 2 weeks later, I was popular immediately. The city was running better without the 12,000 people.
Can you do that on a bigger scale in the federal government?
You'd have to look at the rules and the law. Some of them I couldn't fire, but I'd move them to very inconvenient places. I'd live in Staten Island, and I'd stick them all the way up in the top of the Bronx.
Hey, can I say one thing though? And what has bothered me most about this disgusting, lying, propagandist media is that they have tried to detract and tear apart this man's reputation.
Oh, but
This
all of
man
them. We're all
fought
part of
and
that.
Destroyed,
You too.
But you destroyed the mafia. You took on the mafia. Who would do that? He did it. He did it
They don't take it
successfully.
away from me. I know I did it.
And
You did it.
the Wall Street.
And he saved New York
The
City.
greatest mayor I've ever had. He took the Wall Street mafia down with milking that crowd. You took the 5 families down. You're one of the greatest Americans of the 20th century. Bar none.
Absolutely,
They
without
don't take it
a
away
doubt.
from me. I did it. What are they going to do? I mean, tough
Well,
luck.
I look forward
the
to
one
us.
that gets them really upset is when I say I saved more black lives than any mayor in history, any place.
I believe that.
By cutting murder.
I think Rudy for chief of staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Well,
Thank you guys.
couldn't have had a better discussion, right? Right.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you and God bless America. We'll be back tomorrow night, and we'll have the answer on exactly why Tucker Carlson was fired.